Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's event by Founder Institute Sweden. My name is Mekar Sheikh. I'm the country director for Founder Institute, and I have the honor of hosting this fantastic event with you today, where you get to meet the startup ecosystem of Sweden with representatives from some great organizations in Sweden. Just so you know, I've recently had corona and my throat is still very scratchy, so please excuse me for that. I might need to stop and drink water every now and then. I'm really glad to see people joining in. We're going to give a few more minutes for people to tune in. And I'm really interested to know all about you. Where in Sweden are you joining us from today? Please drop a line in the chat, introduce yourselves, share your LinkedIn profiles. Let's just keep it interactive. I'm presenting from Stockholm this evening from a fantastic co-working space called Impact Hub Stockholm, which is also one of our supporting partners that shares our vision of inclusive sustainability and using business for good. So if you're looking for a business address, an impact community, or just an inspiring environment to work in, do check out Impact Hub Stockholm. It's pretty cool. I also want to give a shout out to Anna, who's our marketing lead and is moderating the chat for us today. It's nice to see people joining in from so many different cities. Hello from Prague. Hi, Jan. Lovely to see so many people. We have Sami from Kalmar. Awesome. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining in, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Keep the event interactive. Please use the chat function to drop in the cities you're joining in from, your thoughts. What do you want to hear today? Why are you here today? What does the word ecosystem actually mean to you? So please go ahead and keep the chat busy. Guys, if there's one thing that COVID has done for the world, it's making so many things available online. It completely blows my mind seeing how we connect with each other from opposite sides of the country. We have Dave here from Gothenburg. Welcome, Dave. Awesome. All right, so at Founder Institute, we believe that great founders live everywhere. We're the world's most proven startup network, and we're here to give you the support and resources of Silicon Valley, regardless of where you live in Sweden. So if this is your first time engaging with us, FS Sweden will be running an accelerator program for early stage startups, which will be 100% online, but more on that later. The purpose of this event today is to share the diversity of startup organizations and the resources available to founders in Sweden. I'm very thankful to all the organizations and the leaders who are joining our ecosystem event today. I'm also very happy to share with you that, as promised, today we have with us the co-founder and CEO of Founder Institute, Jonathan Gritchen, who's joining us from a very different time zone in the US. So thank you, John. Jonathan will be talking about how Founder Institute helps build great companies around the world. Let me just briefly outline the agenda for today. In our last event, our speakers talked about funding in Sweden, and we dived deep into the opportunities available for founders. This event will have a slightly different format. We'll start with a keynote address by Jonathan Gritchen, and our guest speakers will then introduce themselves and tell us a little bit more about what they do, what their organizations do. I'll ask them a few questions in panel discussion format. And then it will be your turn to drive the discussion with your questions, your queries, your thoughts. These can be general questions to the panel, or you can direct them to a specific speaker. The fun doesn't end here, though. For networking with other founders, you'll be directed to a platform called AirMeet. After 2 years of using Zoom, I'm super excited about AirMeet, which is so much more like having a real conversation with someone. I believe that so much of growing your business boils down to having a network of friends who are willing to support you, to give you feedback, point you in the right direction, or just to simply be a brand advocate. So have your laptops ready if you're joining us by mobile, and make sure that you stick around afterwards. We'll be sharing the AirMeet link with you in the chats very soon. Here are are fantastic speakers for this event. They'll have a chance to say hello to you very soon. Guys, this event is for you. So if you have any questions, any comments, please write them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer all of your questions during the session. So without further ado, we bring you the co-founder and CEO of Founder Institute, Jonathan Grichin. We're very keen to hear your view on how the startup landscape is evolving globally, Jonathan, when it comes to building the next generation of global technology companies and how you see Nordics and Sweden. What makes us unique? I know that's a lot, but it would be great if you could just compress it into a few minutes. Take it away, John.
You gave me that top. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Cool. All right. Yeah, you guys gave me that topic, so I'm going to try to do my best there. It obviously is it's a big question, but I believe we've now been in the Nordics. I believe our first chapter there was in Helsinki in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. So we have about a decade plus of time there. So I think we have a decent amount of experience. And yeah, happy to speak with you all today. So just very quickly, and this is just a preface because it'll give you a little bit more context about what I'm about to talk about. Is Founder Institute. It's a global network since 2009. We help turn ideas into fundable companies and then startups into global businesses. We do this across 90 plus countries. We have helped 5,300 plus alumni build these companies. They've raised, and actually I need to update this because we have a new unicorn today, which is sort of a sign of the times, right? But we have a company called the Susu just a couple hours ago on TechCrunch. They announced a round where they're now valued at over $1 billion. And the best thing about this company is that it does good in the world. Okay, essentially what this company does is normally if you're a renter, you only can, the rent, if you don't pay rent on time, it can negatively impact your credit score, right? But if you pay rent on time, it can't positively impact your credit score. This company literally makes it so that paying rent on time positively impacts your credit score so that you can build up credit to become a homeowner. So anyway, the company's called the Susu, but long and short of it is we've been doing this for a long time and we have a lot of data. And when you work with founders at this pre-seed stage or at this idea stage, you have to rely on data because at that stage, honestly, the ideas in every company, if somebody has that idea, there's this vision of somebody has that kind of, that light bulb, right? But that light bulb is not actually what turns into the company, right? Every single idea goes through a massive evolution. So the greatest variable in the success or the failure of any startup, it's not the idea, it's not the market, it's not any of that stuff. You have to look at a startup as an evolution. And that evolution is managed by the founder. The founder is the one that just has that simple idea in the beginning. That idea then gets feedback from all different inputs, and that idea goes through a journey to the point where hopefully it becomes a successful company, right? There's almost no value in that idea. It's all in that in-between space. It is all in that evolution. And that's why at the Founder Institute, we take a very social science approach to try to quantify the value or the skills, I should say, it was probably a better term to put it, of the founders, which are the greatest variable in the success or failure of a business. So we've been doing this since 2009. We basically take a social science approach. The first version of this social science assessment or this entrepreneur DNA assessment was over 3 hours long. Luckily, it's not that anymore. It's closer to about 20 to 30 minutes now. But over time, we've tested over 70,000 founders. We've had over 20,000 founders enrolled in our programs where we're collecting data at every single point in the program. We've graduated over 5,000 alumni, then taking their real world data, right, to see how they do in the real world. And then we take all of that data and try to correlate it back. The companies and the founders that are doing really well, what traits are correlating back to that test that they took in the beginning stages of FI. And if you take the test now, this is something we just released last year, but if you take the test now, you get instant results. This is our main source for admissions of acceptance and failure in the Founder Institute. So you don't get immediate results on that. That all goes under human review, but you do get an immediate test result on how you did on the admissions assessment but I'll just quickly go through here what we look for, what the traits, the main traits that we have seen to correlate positively with entrepreneurship, and then also how the Swedish founders stack up on a quick analysis that we did. So number one is high fluid intelligence. Okay, so when I say fluid intelligence, this is not IQ, because I think we could all agree that somebody with the highest IQ in the world doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the best startup founder, right? Fluid intelligence is your ability to take a new rule set, learn that new rule set very quickly and apply it to solve a new problem. Essentially, it's your ability to like think on your feet, solve new problems really, really quickly. And this should come as no surprise, because as a startup founder, literally all you're doing every day at all times is solving new problems and learning new skills that you probably didn't go to school for or were traditionally trained for, right? It is all about your ability to learn new things quickly and then apply that learning to adjust and adapt. So high fluid intelligence is one of the biggest things that we look for. High openness is something that we also look for. In the social sciences, this is known as a big five personality trait. Openness, it's, you know, some people use it as shorthand of being creative, but it's not just being creative, it's also being kind of risk-taking, it's being open, honestly, to new ideas, to new adventures, to new risks, to new experiences, and things like that, right? So this is something, obviously, entrepreneurs generally need to challenge the status quo, right? And high openness is essentially people that challenge the status quo and ask questions. Then there's moderate agreeableness. So agreeableness is something, and pardon my French here, but if you are a 100 on the agreeable scale, that means you're a total pushover. You'll say yes to anything and you'll let people walk all over you. If you're a 0, it means you're kind of an insufferable asshole. Okay. What we look for is to find people right in the middle, right? The people that know they can be flexible, but they can kind of stand their ground when they need to, and they can be, they can be open to feedback and be flexible at other times when they need to. So we try to find people right in the middle of that scale. And just doing a very quick analysis on the Swedish entrepreneur, and this was from 500 plus tested people from Stockholm and Gothenburg over the years. And I just did a super quick analysis to see where the Swedish entrepreneur ranked on our global scale. And again, we're in over 90 countries. So that's what these stats are. Definitely not a comprehensive analysis, but Swedish entrepreneurs are the top 10 of extroversion. So I didn't mention extroversion earlier. It doesn't necessarily mean, at least our stats tell us, that it's not the more extroverted you are, the better of an entrepreneur that you'll be. But we do see it's kind of on both ends of the spectrum, where if you're extremely not extroverted, or if you extremely are on the other side of being extroverted, that might correlate negatively, right? But anyway, Swedish entrepreneurs are in the top 10, top 20 of emotional stability. So that's something that obviously you need in building a fast growth company is to have that emotional stability. Top 20 in openness around the world as well. And again, this is out of 90 countries around the world. And you're also the top 30 in moderate agreeableness in these countries as well. So Swedish entrepreneur can stack up with anybody in the world, and we've seen a lot of amazing companies come out of Sweden and come out of Finland and all over the Nordics. So, with all of the data we've collected, a lot of people ask me like, why do you think that is? Why do Swedish entrepreneurs rate this way and stuff? And my answer to that, and it will always be, is I have no idea, right? We're just collecting the statistics. I don't claim to be a social scientist, and I have certainly not spent enough time there to make any judgments about your culture. But this is what the statistics tell us, and again, we've been collecting these since about 2011 in the region, and correlating it against all the entrepreneurs we've worked with around the world. So I'm going to go very quick here and just give everybody one quick piece of advice. All right. And this is always the piece of advice that I give to all entrepreneurs at the earliest stages of building a business. And that is to don't squander your only startup advantage. All right. As a startup, and I put Evil Corp here for any for any fans and the show, Mr. Roboto, I believe is the name of the show. But anyway, it is very quickly, you only have two advantages against the incumbents or the big companies. All right. The first advantage that you have is speed. Okay. Big companies or any of the incumbents, they have bureaucracy, which doesn't allow them to learn very quickly. Okay. But as a startup, you can be ignorant, you can have a high risk tolerance, which means that you can learn super, super quickly. And the way that you do this is through this compounded learning cycle. You test, you succeed or fail. Either way is fine. You internalize that learning. So the next time, the next test that you do, the next project that you try is at a higher base of learning. And what happens is you create this compounded learning cycle, right? The big companies, no matter what they do, all of them they try to create little circles. They try to create all of these different hierarchies. It doesn't matter. They're always going to be stuck in this they're going to learn, right? But it's going to be a much more gradual learning curve. Whereas a startup, if you can have that compounded learning cycle, you can learn much more quickly. Okay. And if you don't learn, if your learning does not compound, compare it to sort of the concept of compounded interest, right? Which I believe Einstein called like the eighth wonder of the world. If you don't do that, then you're on the same level playing field as a big company. And then the second thing is to focus on a niche market. All right. Every big company and every established business, they have a fiduciary responsibility, whether it's to investors or whomever, but they can't pursue projects that only focus on very specific markets. And this is the opening where startups win. Okay. Big companies cast a wide net. They build imperfect products for very large markets. Startups can come in and build perfect products for smaller markets. And then when you do that well, that then starts to grow. You build a following and you can grow organically from there. And literally every single business, big business that you know today started that way. Okay. Every single one. And it's always, when I speak to founders all the time, it's like, oh, well, you said that we should think big, we should do this, we should do that, right? Yeah, you think big by being smart. Okay, you have to execute in a very, very focused fashion in the beginning in order to get to that big stage. And the one thing that negates these advantages is a lack of focus. That is by far the number one startup killer that I've seen in my now almost 20 years in working in high growth startup industry. And I know that being unfocused is kind of a big word. So what does that mean? Well, number one, if you're unfocused, you're not even learning anything, right? If you're wrong, you're actually learning. So you're much better off being wrong actually than being unfocused, which is something that I think a lot of people also don't realize. Like, you might as well be focused on an idea that you're not sure is going to be right, because then you'll learn it's wrong and you can kind of cross that off the list, than trying to do 10 things at any given time, because then you're not learning anything. All right. And then what does being focused really mean? And this is the last slide here. This is the kind of the framework that we give to founders in FI. When you're starting out, okay, and I can tell you that 80 to 90% of especially new startup founders, when they're launching their first company, will break this rule. And it's the rule of one. Okay, when you're starting out, you have to focus on solving one problem for one customer with one product, right? The number of people I say, oh, we're going to build a suite of products. If that's in your vocabulary, cut it right now. Okay, so solve one problem for one customer with one product that has one killer feature. This was another big thing. People are like, oh, well, I have 4 features that my customers don't even really care about, so I'm just going to keep adding more and more. Like, no, that's the wrong way. You need to find that one, and one revenue stream as well. Okay, like this is almost the gating factor for new companies to kind of reach that escape velocity. If you can get this, if you can solve this, then you can kind of build a very happy user base that will then help you grow organically over time. All right. Thank you, everybody. I think I took more time than I was supposed to, so I apologize. But I hope that was helpful, and I hope I didn't offend any of you with my personality data analysis of Swedes.
Well, thank you so much, John. Lack of focus is a startup killer. That's the advice that I'm definitely going to take home with me. I've taken the Entrepreneur DNA test myself, and I was surprised at how accurate it was. Well, I know how absolutely jam-packed your schedule is, so thank you so much for making the time. For those of you who are interested in joining the Founder Institute program, I'll be sharing more information about how you can apply a bit later in this event. All right, entrepreneurs in the making, this is what you signed up for. This event is all about you. What kind of support is out there if you're starting a company? What's the difference between a founder-focused or a startup-focused accelerator? How do you know what kind of support would help you to become a better entrepreneur? And how on earth do you go about building a startup in Sweden? Before we jump into all of these questions, Anders, Ariane, Jesper, Maria, and Naimul, I would like to invite you as our guest speakers this evening. I'm very thankful that you guys are joining in. I'd like to invite you to say hello to our audience from all over the country. So it would be great if you could each take about 1 minute to introduce yourselves and your organizations. Anders, would you like to start, please?
Thank you very much, Mekar. I hope you can hear me and see me all right. And thanks also to Jonathan and Founders Institute for organizing this event. So just 1 minute about myself and Antler. I'm partnering with Antler, which is an early stage venture capital firm focused on the pre-seed and the seed stage. And we can also invest later in the value chain. Antler has Nordic DNA and origin, but we're also global. We're in 16 locations across the world, invested in 400 companies, of which 100 are here in the Nordics. Our vision is to support brilliant entrepreneurs to build amazing companies by reaching their full potential. And we do that by building cohorts of about 60 to 100 entrepreneurs twice a year in each location. We work both face-to-face, online, and hybrid, depending on the stage of the COVID situation. In the Nordics, we have 20 dedicated colleagues here to support all entrepreneurs who want to build with us, plus advisors and venture partners as well. We support with a mix of talent. Co-founder matching is definitely at the heart of what we do, both business and tech and other backgrounds. We support with capital, technical resources and credits. We help the companies scale globally through our network, and we help them through coaching and advisory throughout the entire journey. So if you're looking to build a company or have just gotten started, we're more than happy to support you and help you along your way. Next cohorts here in the Nordics start on the 14th of February. So just another 2 weeks left. We have a couple of seats available for great entrepreneurs who want to build with us. So feel free to reach out to me or go to www.antler.co. So again, thanks for organizing the event. We're happy to interact with the ecosystem, which is very strong through collaboration over competition. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Anders. A fun fact about Anders is that he speaks Mandarin Chinese on a professional level. So
That's right.
Awesome.
Thanks.
That's brilliant. Ariane, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi. Thanks for having me. This is so great to hear that Founders Institute is finding their way to Stockholm, as Antler did a couple of years ago. And then you have Impact Hub here that's also a global network. So we're really international for being a really tiny, tiny little city. So my name is Ariane. I work here for Invest Stockholm, which is the investment promotion agency of the city. We work here with different things. I work with the local business development and especially with the startup scene. So I work mostly with partnering up with all the fantastic actors that we have in the startup scene. But Invest Stockholm does a lot of things. We have a network called the Stockholm Business Alliance, serving 53 municipalities around Stockholm. We're working getting investors to invest. We're working with getting more establishments to the city. And to do that, we of course want to have a thriving tech ecosystem because that's really what attracts a lot of different companies. What should I tell more? Yeah, that was a short intro about myself.
Thank you very much, Ariane, for the introduction. Jesper, take it away.
Thank you so much, Makar, for having me on this panel again. So my name is Jasper, and I was the founder of Impact Hub in Stockholm. We were the first co-working space in Stockholm, opened in 2005. At the same time as we opened the Impact Hub, or the Hub at that point, in London. And from that time, we've grown to become the world's largest network of Impact Hubs. We have locations in more than 100 cities around the world, with 16,000 members connected to one of these Impact Hubs. We host thousands of events each year and host hundreds of programs throughout the world, everything from small workshops to year-long scale-up programs locally, but also in a collaborative way with using our networks to do that. Our focus, to take Jonathan's word there, our number one focus is to create Impact Hub experience for all our members, which is based upon three different things. Is create the best space you can be in as an entrepreneur, so everything at your fingertips. And thank you, Makar, for introducing Impact Hub. We moved to our new space 2 years ago, which is awesome. And we moved in there just as the pandemic hit us, so it's like, damn it, but the space is still there, and we just love for you to come and join us, become a member of Impact Hub, and fill it up and with the space. Coming to the next thing that we do to creating the Impact Hub experience, which is the community. You know, how do we create the best community, locally rooted but globally connected? We focus a lot on that. And the third thing is content. So hosting programs and events like this together with Founders Institute is the three things that we do to create the Impact Hub experience. And I want to round off with saying that we started as a co-working space back in 2005. And I think the future of this co-working space, going from co-working to co-creating to co-solving. So we need to co-solve all the issues that we have ahead of us. So that is our focus at the Impact Hub from now on going forward. So thank you again for having me on this panel.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for being on this panel, Jesper. Impact Hub Stockholm is our favorite co-working space, and the Founder Institute team sits here all the time, and we absolutely love the environment that you've created. So thank you. Maria from Plus Impact, take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everyone, and thanks for having me. My name is Maria, and I guess I'm the closest to a co-founder this program can have. I've incubated Plus Impact Accelerator on behalf of Danske Bank. It's a program that we run in partnership with WeWork Labs and the Research Institute of Sweden. It's aimed at Nordic companies, Nordic impact startups working with what we call green growth. So if you're working with food or urbanization, electrification, we're interested in knowing what you do. We are an equity-free program, but for a little bit later stage companies. What we focus on is connecting our cohort companies with Danske Bank customers, corporate customers, for possibility of partnering or piloting with bigger clients. So what we really do is, sometimes when Antler programs are done, we bump companies off Antler and take them through our program that also takes place in a hybrid mode depending on the corona surges. So you can also get a co-working space with us, not at Impact Hub, but at WeWork in Stockholm or in Oslo.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Maria. We have over 146 people joining us at the moment, and there are people joining in all the time. So guys, please go ahead and keep writing in the chat. Naimul from Companion Stockholm, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Makar and Founder Institute, for inviting me to this amazing information session. I'm a business advisor and partnerships lead at Companion Stockholm. We are Stockholm's leading government-funded organization focusing on helping early-stage founding teams who want to start ventures around impact, social innovation, and cooperative philosophies. We help entrepreneurs in all sectors, from example being AI or space tech startups to a music band. Now, how cool is that? We organize a lot of events around pitching, finances, marketing, social selling, partnerships, and so on. In November, second year in a row, we organized the hugely popular Stockholm Entrepreneurs Day with attendees from over 30 countries. I love ecosystems, and I'm deeply involved in the Nordic ecosystem with several initiatives, including projects around impact and creative sector. That's my passion. And I also run several global and local communities. For example, Startup Grind. Anders will be joining us in a couple of weeks for a deeper discussion on Antler model. So it'll be fun discussing that. And finally, I also have an evolving early stage impact tech portfolio of my own. All this enables me to advise around close to 1,000 startup founders across Sweden every year. So thoroughly enjoying it and loving this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Naimul. I have a fun fact about Naimul as well. He's a brilliant musician. So check out his songs on Spotify. Thank you, Naimul, for being here today. Anders, Ariane, Jesper, Maria, Naimul, thank you all for the intros. What a fantastic mix of organizations we have at the roundtable here today. So just to recap, we have an accelerator for first-time founders run by an investment firm. We have a vertical specific accelerator program for early stage startups, which is run by the largest bank in Denmark. We have a nonprofit that provides free business advice to local residents who are looking to start their own cooperatives or impact-driven company. We have a local community and co-working space for social entrepreneurs with a global network in 60 countries. That's awesome. And we have the official investment promotion agency of Stockholm, which is considered to be one of the most innovative in the world. So awesome. All right, then let's do this. There are so many topics I'd love to explore today, but today's event is all about the Swedish startup ecosystem and the support available to you. So audience, all of you who are watching, what does the word startup ecosystem mean to you? Just if you had to describe it in one word, what would that be? So write that in the chat. What does startup ecosystem mean to you? So my first question to the panel is, what makes Sweden a great place to establish a startup? John had a lot of good things to say about Sweden. The world knows how awesome Sweden is when it comes to entrepreneurship. What do you see as the biggest attraction that draws startups to Sweden? Anders, would you like to start the discussion?
Thanks for that. I think the ecosystem comes from the nature and the environment. And it's funny now that we're using the ecosystem to support the environment, but in the natural ecosystem, all organisms support each other in one way or form, and they're all interconnected. In the same way goes for the startup ecosystem. And in Sweden, I think the benefit, the strengths we have is the founder pool and the talent pool that we have based on generations of great companies. We all know them, Ericsson, Electrolux, H&M, IKEA, and so on and so forth, Volvo, and the sort of engineering as well as business talent base springing from these companies, and all the way to the recent unicorns that we all know as well, Klarna, Spotify, iSettle, and so forth. And that creates a lot of great waves on the water, and a lot of people from that see A, it's possible, and B, built up a lot of great talent and skills to build their own company. So in Sweden, I think it stands out that we have a lot of great people who want to build great companies, and they have the skills working from some of these amazing organizations. So that, I would say, is the biggest strength I see in this ecosystem.
I totally agree with you, Anders. And looking at the city of Stockholm, which is still the capital of Sweden, even if we just serve the city, we usually talk about what DNA we have in Stockholm, and we talk about visionary, trustworthy, and free. And I really see with the people you meet in Sweden that they're open to share their ideas. They're open to offer their help if they have a specialized niche that the startup might not know about. And I think we're really, helping each other out to share contacts. And I would say that that's really one of the great strengths with Swedes and the tech ecosystem that we have. Pay it forward mentality.
If I may jump in over here, I think what, because I come from abroad, so I've came to Sweden 8 years ago. What I think is a very strong driver for Sweden to be a great place for entrepreneurship is the welfare philosophy, or the well-being philosophy, I would say, like people being in the center of focus for a government, for infrastructure. So what that means is, if you are a student and studying in university, you actually get CSN. With university studies, you can actually dream solutions and really do it. So it's the welfare mindset of the state gives a huge boost to the quantum of innovation that can happen at individual level, I would say. So I think that's a huge driver, the way Swedish society is structured.
And also, not to forget, I mean, coming from the US, when Jonathan was speaking, we have a great social security system. I mean, in the US, you might be ending up on the streets if you fail, but here you won't. You still have money to go to the doctor and, you know, live your life. And I think what we should steal as Swedes from the Silicon Valley-based companies is that it should be more acceptable to fail. I mean, we shouldn't even see it as a failure if we don't succeed with our first 5 startups. And I think we're getting there to get the best parts of the international startup mentality.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said. And Anders, how you put it, that in nature, all organisms support each other. So Swedish ecosystem is just like nature, and everyone is so open with their contacts, with their networks, and or whatever they have. They're okay to fail. They're not scared of failure. They define failure in a different way, and all of these things add to Stockholm and Sweden's ecosystem being on the top. If you look at the flip side, Jesper, what would you think are the things that Sweden needs to improve on?
Yeah, thank you for giving me that question, so I can be the sort of devil's advocate here. But I have a flip side to it, actually, because Ariane was speaking about that we have a good welfare system, and I agree on that. We have one of the best welfare system in the world, and it's really safe to fail in Sweden. But this actually also, from a startup perspective as an entrepreneur, if you look at being able to actually go outside of the box and be very innovative. Yes, we have a lot of innovation in Sweden as well, and we are good at that as well. But if you have that safety net all around you all the time, and specifically when it comes to social innovation, you want to innovate on a challenge that we have in society, we have such a good welfare system, and most of the problems are taken care of. We don't really have big problems in Sweden. Yes, of course, we have things that we can improve on. That in my network where I come from, when I speak to my colleague in, somewhere else in Latin America, when they are sort of really great if they come to work without being shot at, or that they can get food on the table at night. We don't have that problem. And you want to really innovate on a social level, and you're not being sort of set through these emotions of actually having to innovate because your livelihood depends on it, then it's harder to do that. We had a bunch of people coming from a developing country to the space a couple of years ago, and then we asked this question, what does it mean for you to be thinking outside of the box? And the answer for them was, well, here in Sweden, we always speak about thinking outside of the box. Well, they come from, there is no box, so they always live in this not fear, but in this need of having to innovate, whereas we in Sweden might not have that urge and pressure to actually innovate.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. I don't know if you hear this a lot, but you're really good at being the devil's advocate. So let's move to you, Maria. Staying on the early stage, can you walk us through the crucial steps in transforming an idea into a successful business? So a person has an idea. How does that turn into successful business?
So It's a tricky question for me because we actually don't work with very early stage companies. So we usually work with them when they at least have an MVP. And I don't necessarily want to bring cliche answers here, but just based on observation and the experience I've had interviewing startups and recruiting startups for a few years, I think the openness that we heard about before is really key, and in the best positive way, the hustling attitude. As we were just talking, I mean, innovation comes from a place of discomfort oftentimes. And I think I've seen teams that have been just really uncomfortable because they maybe didn't have a ton of experience in the field, or maybe they've never been a part of the ecosystem before. And I really do think that this is what made the difference in their product being successful, because they were just more open to listening and to learning rather than the know-it-alls teams.
Brilliant, thank you.
I would like to add something over there. I think I completely agree with you, Maria, that different stages have different requirements because from idea to a business, there might be several stages. In our work, we work very early with ideas at Companion. The problems that we have seen, or where we have seen the struggle, is that, and we meet a lot of impact and social innovation focused entrepreneurs, is the diversity of ideas and the lack of focus. So for you to actually start running a successful business, it's very important to make some very early choices about all the broad the canvas of ideas that you have, or canvas of approaches that you have. So focus as a founder is very crucial to build a business. And I would say the push to start something. So many people kind of dabble their feet, kind of get the feet wet, but don't really go out and swim. So entrepreneurship is a lot about doing things. So if you want your idea to go from an idea to business, you need to focus on what it can be or can become. You need to start working on it and give it your full, because if you can't give it your full, it would not fly without you. So at an early stage for an idea, giving it your full, having the focus and validating and listening, keeping your ears open is very important, because you might be thinking inside, but the idea needs to go and work outside with the customer. So those three things I would say are important at early stage.
Yes, thank you. Would you agree, Ariane? Looks like you have something.
I agree, and I think that Jonathan gave great advice by saying that it should be one problem, one customer, one product, one killer feature, and one revenue stream. Because often I'm not a business coach, I wouldn't know. I'm more working in partnership with this ecosystem, but I really think it's important to narrow it down. And I see it from the international companies that I meet, that they're like, okay, we want to try Stockholm because you're early adopters. And now I have a 5-year-old coming in here. Sorry. I'll be right back.
No worries, no worries. So we just take it back to something that Maria touched upon, and that was the idea of teams and finding the right co-workers. So we stay on that theme, and maybe Anders, you could start a bit about look, like we're potentially married to our co-workers. We spend so much time with them. We spend more time with them than we spend with our families. So like it or not. So do you have any tips for our audience here today for building strong teams and finding just the right co-founders? What's the secret sauce there?
Yeah, thanks. Great question, and very important one, of course. I think the strength of the team will ultimately decide the success of the company. So getting it right from the beginning is very important. At the same time, very tough to find someone who's perfect, so to speak, or at least right for you. And a few things to, first of all, most founders, when they think about a co-founder, think about, is this the right one? Yes or no, more of a binary thing. Instead, trying to break it down into certain, several dimensions. First, starting at the bottom of values, deep values that we all have. Some of them are born with and some that we develop, but it's still making sure that that value base to a big degree is shared between the co-founders to make sure that you're in it for the same reasons and you have similar values at the core of things. Then on another level of things, you can look at the personalities of the people. They don't have to be the same or share. They can be very different, but at least you need to understand the other person's personality and why we are as we are. And just having an understanding of perhaps cultural dimensions or other preferences will certainly help cooperation when you're working so much with each other. Competencies as well, very important to make sure that you don't have two shared competencies, but actually more complementary. You're only 2 or 3 people when you start a company, usually. And therefore, if you can cover as big part of the spectrum as possible, that certainly will help you get forward faster. And then last and not least, you have a direction and strategic similarity. You know what you want to build and you have a shared passion. So kind of breaking down that co-founder matching into several dimensions will help you understand and decide if this person is right or not for you. And then I think lastly, asking the difficult questions early, and instead of letting them happen along the way. What are your preferences on the culture you're building for the company? How are you going to split the equity of this company? What's your work-life balance set up? What's your exit horizon? So on and so forth. There's a lot of these critical, sometimes difficult and non-obvious questions that you need to address quite upfront, at least, to make sure that you have a similar view of these things. And I think that's important for co-founders to do, to make sure that that relationship is strong when you start. And of course, like any relationship, keep nurturing that relationship all the time, not just in the beginning.
I can only second them. They are so excellent points on values, personalities, cultural fit, complement each other and have the same passion. Something which we find very important in very early stage startups is also the kind of runway you have in your mind. So different, and I was discussing it with with one of my friends on way here today, that somebody might be in it to work for 3 years, as opposed to somebody might want revenues within 6 months because they have lost the job. So somebody on the founding team, they might not have a job while other is well provided for. So having a similar runway or the same idea of how you want to build the runway for the business is very important at an early stage, so that your financial perspective needs to be aligned as to what you want out of it. So just adding that point to what Anders said. Brilliant.
Excellent point, Naimul. Would anyone like to add to it? Ariane, Maria, what do you think?
I think also, just based on observation, it doesn't have to be just the decision that you make yourself. To find a co-founder, you can have mentors that will help you do it. And I think actually that's what Antler is really good at. I've seen co-founding team being created because the founders just really liked each other and then they were friends, and they collapsed because there was no further thought put into it. So I think finding a co-founder, you can treat it as any other task on your to-do list. You can find advisors that will help you bounce your ideas, that will tell you how they view your relationship with your potential co-founder and so on. So in this sense, it's not like any other relationship. It's not a dating relationship you're entering. It is to some extent professional relationship on which you can get professional advice.
It definitely is. Thank you for that, Maria. Ariane?
Yeah, I'd like to just mention we have, for the last 2 years at Invest Stockholm, we have started something called Starta Eget Stockholm, meaning that if you live in Stockholm, you have a bank ID, you have the right to meet different business advisors that you choose yourself. We have Naimul as a business advisor in there. And I would like it to be more regional and country-wise, but it's paid with the taxpayers' money of the Stockholmers. And it's a really great thing because we have a lot of underrepresented founders. We have female founders that doesn't find their way into the ecosystem. We haven't all gone to the same business schools or to the Royal Institute of Technology or to the same daycare in Bromma or Djursholm or Lidingö. So this is a way to help them and also all other Stockholmers. But I think it's a really good part of the support system that we also see that, you know, even if we take for granted that it's easy to have access to the tech ecosystem, it's not always that easy if you come from another place. Even if we have the pay forward mentality, and even if you connect to me to LinkedIn, I will be happy to share the details with whoever who can help you out.
Perfect, perfect. If we talk about the trends now, so we're just going to move a little, we're going to change the subject a bit now. And entrepreneurship is a mindset. It's a way of looking at things. It's a way of solving problems. So in today's world, what kind of problems do you think need entrepreneurial solutions, and what are the important startup verticals or technology areas for new founders to work on? Jesper, would you like to share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything. I mean, it's a really bad answer, really, but I lived in the entrepreneurial startup ecosystem for a long time, and as we mentioned before in the panel, we have a great bureaucratic welfare system in Sweden. It's fantastic. Sweden is a great country, but we have so many challenges ahead of us, both locally and globally, and we need the entrepreneurial mindset, I think, to address a lot of those. We can't do it alone, and this is my key here, right? You can't. I don't believe that we will solve all of these problems ahead of us by creating a handful of unicorns, right? But I think most of the entrepreneurs, and I think most of the entrepreneurs that is listening into this panel as well, will never become a unicorn. Maybe become fantastic entrepreneurs, and they might create a company which is 1, 2, 3 people. And we have a lot of those. I think Stockholm alone has 3,000 one or two man companies. And I think more of those needs to have and be more bold in wanting to innovate on their products, so that they go into procurement and add their ideas to the solutions that we need to find. So there is no single theme or item that I think is more important than another, than where we should take the entrepreneurial mindset on. So we need it everywhere, actually.
Brilliant. Thank you. Naimul, do you have something to say?
To add. I think there is a huge boom happening, like the way capital is structured for entrepreneurs. I think the biggest shift that I see is happening over there, with the formation of new methods of financing, new venture capitalists coming in at early stage. So I think one of the things which entrepreneurs should, especially who have previously run a venture or have a strong professional background, so they come from some sort of a finance or marketing background with a large network, is to definitely tap into the enabling side of entrepreneurship ecosystem by building communities for tomorrow and by building VC funds for tomorrow. I think that is the biggest shift, because if you can build a VC fund that eventually will take 20 to 50 to 100, depending on the size of your companies, to make it somewhere in the ecosystem. So my advice would be to look over there. And that's happening. I think Founder Institute itself has a VC lab arm, which Adio is now running. So it's doing great work. We hear about it all the time.
Great. Thank you, Naimul. Our audience seemed to be engaged in this topic quite a lot. Thank you, Tvana, for your comments here. Said Salman. Badr thinks that it's more about the journey, not really the destination. And I completely agree with you here, Badr. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this. Keep writing. Pia from Stockholm finds this event very interesting. I'm really happy to see that you can see the value in this discussion. Once again, I want to thank all of the panelists to be here. Let's just move on to the topic of, I mean, we can go on forever. I have like 100 different topics that I'd love to discuss with you, but we really need to narrow it down now to, let's maybe talk about community a little bit. It takes a village to raise a startup, they say. So can you talk a bit about the Swedish startup community and the support that's available to the founders? I'm sure our audience would love to hear what is it that's available for them? Where can they look for if they want, for example, funding, if they're looking for networking? What is out there in Sweden? Ariane, would you like to start, please?
I was going to say it's unfortunate that we've been having this pandemic, because we used to have like one meetup a day happening in Stockholm. So where if you were in fintech, you would find a fintech meetup. If you were in tech in general, you would have a meetup. And if you would be in food tech, you would also have a meetup. So I think we're soon coming back to the normal, the new normal. But when it comes to communities, I think we all, as Anders also mentioned at the beginning, we're really interconnected in the city. So you will find communities where whatever your startup is doing, if it's AI or fintech or food tech or in the culture, creative industries, as in music tech. So I think it's quite easy to find your way around. And then, of course, the early stage funding is always a question from the startups that you meet, like, how am I going to find my first investment? And if I would have the answer, I would be happy to share, but there's a support system with Almi, where you can take a loan, but you can also get 50,000 kroners to test your innovation and to make a prototype, or do your MVP that's done. So there is support, but I do understand if the startups think it's a jungle.
Maybe I can jump in there, Makar, if it's okay.
Yes,
when we started Impact Hub, more than 15 years ago, we were really looking at, so how do you build a community? What is the essence of the community? I think it's important here to distinguish a community from a network, right? It takes a village to raise a child, right? And what is it in a village that has it, that can raise a child, right? And it's a lot of that is among trust. You have to build trust in a community. And what is it, and how do you build trust, right? You get to know people, you have to ask them who they are as a person, because versus a network where you come to a network and you want to have something from a network, and you want to have connections or an investment or whatever, right? And that is great too. But the community actually support each other in those moments, actually in that entrepreneurial journey. We talked about the journey where a lot of things can happen. You can fail, you get sick, whatever, right? And in a community, take care of each other. So a strong community is only as strong as its weakest link, and the link is between the people in the community. And there's a lot of people who say, I can build a community here, but is it really a community? Is it where you know someone? I have stories from Impact Hub where members come to me and say, if I haven't been here, I would never have succeeded. Not because we gave them a contact for a new investor or whatever, but because when they didn't succeed and when they didn't have, that moment of success, there was someone there in the community who supported them, who can just reach out and say, hey, you know what, I have your back. And that's how you raise a child or raise an entrepreneur. So I just want to make sure that's clear from my side in a way, and what a community is. And there's a lot of different.
That's a brilliant point. If I may jump in over here.
Go ahead.
Like, for example, I run Startup Grind Stockholm, and I can completely feel and I completely agree with what Jesper is saying, because I also work as a startup advisor with all these hundreds and thousands of entrepreneurs. But I think the real value which startups gain is through communities and through learning peers. So peer-to-peer sharing of ideas and contacts and connections is the best way of building your startup. So community is central. And I think a key role of community, like for Startup Grind, it is the educative value. So what we try to do is to bring inspirations from leaders, which are entrepreneurs or investors or ecosystems, and community appreciates it. It gets new connections developed, and people can actually break the geographical bubble due to this digitalization, as you were saying earlier on with COVID, that people here can connect to ecosystems in India, in Israel, in other parts of the world. It's so much easier now. With digital communities.
True that. Thank you very much for sharing the insights with us, Naimul. Peter, Frosso in the chat is very optimistic that we'll be going back to live sessions soon again. Yes, thank you very much for this optimism. That's what we need. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Michael, for your advice. I'm definitely going to read all of this chat later, but please keep writing your advice, keep writing your thoughts over here. This is a great audience. We now need to move on to our next session, which is the question and answer session from the audience. But before that, I'd like to have a brief word about Founder Institute. Very, very quickly, I'm going to tell you what we're all about. Founder Institute, it's the world's most proven network that turns ideas into fundable startups and startups into global businesses. And since 2009, our proven methodology has helped over 5,000 companies across 6 continents build businesses that matter, and we've raised over $1.5 billion in funding. So our program, it helps pre-seed founders and teams to get traction and funding through a very devoted support network and structured growth process. All the things that we talked about in this panel about the community, about structure, about focus. So that is what we aim to provide here at Founder Institute. So if you have an idea that you're dreaming of turning into a business that matters, this program is for you. Early admissions deadline for our program in Sweden is the 20th of February. So go ahead and send in your applications now. This program will help you develop your skills in market validation, in business model development, in sales and marketing. We're looking for founders with passion and grit to make any idea work. So we understand being an entrepreneur is tough, and we prepare you for that. Less than 50% of those who've applied for our program have been accepted so far. We've been taking applications, but we've accepted less than 50%. So if you don't make it in the first go, please keep building yourselves, and we look forward to seeing your applications again in the next round. Let's take a look at the FI Sweden team. So get to know your team. Feel free to reach out to any one of us if you have any questions about the program. Connect with us on LinkedIn, on social media, and please reach out if you have any questions at all. And yeah, just before we bombard the speakers with our questions, please don't forget that right after this Q&A session, we'll be moving over to AirMeet, where you can build your network, where you can get feedback on your idea, you can pitch your startup, or you can find more about the program over there. Super quick reminder, you'll need your laptops for AirMeet. I know it's a hassle, but trust me, it's worth it. All right, guys, over to the audience now. Thank you very much for putting in all of these questions. We'll try to answer as many as we can today. Speakers, be prepared. Looks like we've got some tough ones for you here today. Are you ready? All right. So let's start with Budder's question. She wants to know how to find a co-founder. It's a short and crisp question. It's not directed to anyone, so anyone can answer. How do you find a co-founder?
I would, okay, if I may go first, show up at events, meet the community. The more you are networking, the higher are your chances for success in a startup, and higher are your chances of finding co-founders, partners, and investors. Networking is a huge part of the startup journey. Begin it even before you start building your startup. Because you don't know, if you meet somebody great, you might have a very different twist on your idea. So start your networking very early and start finding people. I would say, I would call them believers, because believers can be co-founders, investors, partners, whoever believes in you.
Yeah, that's such a nice way of putting it. Anders, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, speaking in my own point here, but Antler, this is a big part of what we do, helping founders meet co-founders. And I also know Founders Institute does an excellent job with this. So I think Antler and Founders Institute are 2 examples of organizations here present in Stockholm, where you can network, meet a lot of people, and build companies with. So feel free to reach out if we can help you.
Perfect.
And,
we then, sorry, go on.
I just can add also one small commercial. Use the hub.io, post your co-founding position there, I'm completely subjective to that because obviously it's a product we own, but I've seen co-founders being found through the hub.io, and you get a great pool of people that are already interested.
Brilliant. Thank you, Maria. Maybe Anna, you can put the link in the chat for our audience if they'd like to check that out.
Completely vouch for that. It's a great site. So great work there, Maria. I'm recommending it all the time to founders. Yeah.
Awesome.
I just also want to say just a quick point. I think it's important also because what Alex was speaking earlier about the importance of co-founders to take that serious, right? Not just like, oh, anyone can be my co-founder, but be honest with who you are and what you're looking for, and you take it serious when you go out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sorry,
thank you, Jessica.
I saw that Peter Fosso was writing, who runs the Stockholm Entrepreneurs. Why don't we just do a matchmaking event with all of us involved in it for the startups to meet co-founders?
That is such a brilliant idea. A matchmaking event. Awesome. Brilliant. Then we move on to the next question, which I absolutely love over here. It's actually my question as well. Most of the capital goes to male founders. What should the female founders do? Anyone can take that question.
Oh my God, this is like my heart questions. Why is the funding gap so big between companies started by female and males? And I think I will let Anders answer this. So the female person is quiet.
No, it's a very important question. Of course, we're very passionate about solving this problem as well and this challenge, because we think great companies are built by diverse teams in every dimension, solving all problems that there are, and making sure that the team can have a great dynamic. And data shows that diverse teams also build better companies. So we work a lot with this. So far, over 40% of our teams have at least one female co-founder, which is better than the average, but it's not good enough. So we need to do more. I think it's about encouraging each other and sort of helping each other taking the leap of faith into entrepreneurship, and also helping each other to basically recommending other great people who should be starting companies, and giving them that support network, encouragement, everything needed to do it. And of course, for us in venture capital, to make sure that we can do what we need to find the right founders and making the right decisions to fund them. Some of our best portfolio companies are run by female founders, and I think that's really exciting and encouraging to see. So we'd love to continue this work all together. So no silver bullet, but at least a few comments.
I have a comment on it as well, Mekar, if I may.
Go on, yes,
because I think it's really hard for a female founder to do anything at the moment because we don't have the infrastructure. We need to start with going back to both academia and the institutions that is behind the gap of, in this sense, then investment for female founders. We are starting next week. We're starting a program, Femin ICT, how we can support the infrastructure behind the barriers for female founders, and going back to both academia. How can we make sure that female can go to the right universities to be able to be entrepreneurs, and when it comes to investors and also other bureaucratic barriers that they see. So we need to look at the infrastructure behind the gap here, and not say, encourage each other and give each other because there is a bigger stake and bigger barriers that we need to address here.
Absolutely.
I absolutely would second that, Jesper, if I may jump in. Companion, for example, if I look into our statistics, 50% of our advisory is towards female founders. So we try to do it, but we are very early stage. What I feel directly working with female founders is beyond the business capability you try to build in an early stage startup. It's a lot of belief in yourself that you need to build as an advisory organization, because they have been through an ecosystem which is used to the traditional narrative and traditional founders. So I think a huge boost in confidence is needed in early stage female entrepreneurs. And of course, Jesper, what you're saying, when you reach the other end, Like when they need capital, the capital market needs to be structured in terms of listening to them and not just shutting the door out that this type of entrepreneur doesn't fit in.
Yeah.
So we try our best, yes, but we are limited at very early stage.
Yes, thank you very much. Ariane, please go on. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I want to talk all the time. This is the last.
It's a very hot topic, and I see that the audience are also finding it very interesting. This information is useful, so please go ahead.
No, but the city of Stockholm and Invest Stockholm is running an initiative called A Woman's Place. We really want more female founders in the city that are already based in Stockholm, but also coming from abroad. So I've been doing some benchmarking with different cities. Like Vienna is a really big city for female startups. So how can we be the best place on earth for female startups? And I really just want everybody to know that we're working really hard on the question about female-funded companies and female entrepreneurs. Yeah, and I know that the ecosystem is also doing it. So yeah, let's do it together.
I love the sound of it. A place for female entrepreneurs, the best place on earth for female entrepreneurs. Ariane, would be great if you could post the link for A Woman's Place in the chat as well, so audience can check it out if they want to.
I already did.
Oh, you did? Awesome. Aren't you the best?
We have more than 100 companies that have declared themselves as Women's Place.
Brilliant.
Tech companies.
Brilliant.
So I will call Anders tomorrow to have Antler on the list. They're not yet.
Perfect. Sarah, thank you for sharing your thoughts. Fatima says that Stockholm has my heart. Perfect. Yeah, Stockholm has all our hearts. Thank you, Scott Carroll. He says he thinks that working in a vacuum makes it far more difficult. I completely agree with you. There's actually so much stuff here in the chat. I could just print it out and print a book of wisdom out of this. This looks so cool. Great. Then we move on to the next question. This question is by Said. And he wants to know from all the panelists, how are these panelists and their organizations planning to deal with the shortage of developers, particularly in the Stockholm area?
If anyone has an answer.
I can jump in.
I can also.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, Anders.
Go ahead.
Go on, Anders. Go ahead, Anders.
So we're not planning to develop developers, but we are bringing a lot of great talent from other countries as well. From Eastern Europe, Southern Europe, Central Europe, and other places outside of Europe, even though visa makes it a bit tough. But I think that's good. We need to be open to a global talent pool and also make Stockholm a great place that stands out to foreign talent coming here and spending some time, part of their life, building great businesses out of Sweden. So I think that's one part of the answer that we need to do. And then, of course, working more long-term with education and the academic institutions to kind of make sure to promote the right type of programs and offer the right type of programs. But that's not our role, but at least we're bringing great foreign talent to here to build companies.
Perfect, thank you. Would anyone else like to add to this?
Good answer, Anders. And I totally agree. You need to work with education, with the STEM education of girls that are 8 years old today. But the thing is, we are having a huge lack of tech people on the scene in Stockholm. I mean, it has increased with tech workers from 2010 with 40% with people working in tech scene, but we're still lacking 70,000 people in Sweden working on the tech scene. So I don't know what to say. Maybe not everybody wants to start programming and go to I don't know, be systemvetare or work in the IT sector, but we definitely need to do more to attract the talents and to show them that this is the right place to be. And there I think that female entrepreneurs talking about impact companies and how our society is built is one of the things that are very important to attract the right talents to the city and to the tech scene.
And I'm glad, Ariane, that you mentioned female there, because if it starts at academic level, right? How do we get more females to actually go into the right academic level to become, tech entrepreneurs at the end? And it starts there, and there is a systemic failure there. And I think, I mean, for once, this could be an entrepreneur that has can tackle some of these issues that we have, but it's a bigger one. It's a systemic level that we need to tackle it.
And the thing is, it starts at early age. So it's nothing that you can say when people are 15, like, hey, you should check out those computers. They're quite cool. That's something that, you know, as dads and moms, that we should show our kids when they're really, really young. I only have sons. So yeah, I'm just a kille gissar.
I feel you. I'm in the same boat. So I don't know the Swedish word for it, but I'm sure I'm that too. Kille well, guys, there are so many questions. All of them are very important, very hot questions, very significant questions that I'd love you guys to answer. But we are limited by time. So I'm afraid with this question, we'll be wrapping up the Q&A session. But seeing the interest that we had in the question for female founders, I'd like to inform you that if you're a female founder interested in exploring the secret of making it as an entrepreneur, then please join our event that is specifically designed for female founders. It's on the 10th of February, and you will meet some of the top female founders in Sweden. They'll be sharing their insights and answering your questions, and you can find all the information on our LinkedIn page. So I see that there are all of these questions. So maybe on the 10th of February, we can answer them with a different panel. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Check out our LinkedIn page. If you have any questions about our program that will be starting soon, please reach out to anyone from our team and ask your questions. Thank you, Anders. Thank you, Ariane, Jesper, Maria, Naimul. Thank you all very much for joining us and sharing your valuable insights with our audience. It's time for AirMeet. AirMeet is now open, so please go ahead, start networking, and I'll see you there. The link is now in chat, so you just click to the link, and I'll see you at AirMeet, where you have a chance to network and meet the others and the FI team. Thank you very much for being here. And with this, I say goodbye.
Thank you. Thanks for hosting us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great event.
Thank you, Mecca.
Thank
Thank you, Founder
all.
Institute, and the awesome team you guys have. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening. Goodbye.
Bye.
See you at AirMeet. Bye, Ariane. Bye-bye.
Sorry, I might have to put the 5-year-old to bed.
Yes, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Have fun at AirMeet.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naimul. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye. This is the AirMeet link. It's in your chat as well. So just click on the link and you'll find yourself on AirMeet. And it's a slightly different platform than Zoom. You'll find different tables. So you can either have a one-on-one chat with people, or you can join a table. If anyone has any trouble connecting AirMeet, just send me a message here so we fix it. Great, then. Have a great evening, everyone, and see you on AirMeet. Thank you very much for today. And let's connect on LinkedIn. Goodbye.